Hello, welcome everyone. Just waiting for everyone to join. All right, people are showing up. Just give it a minute, few minutes while participants are logging on. As we're waiting, just want to say welcome to everyone. This is day 2 of the Grad open house. We have a very exciting week of a lot of really great webinars. But today is the global arts, or this morning is global arts and cultures. And let's just go ahead and get started. My name's Sarah Lauk. I work in admissions, mostly with undergrad, but I'm here mostly just to assist, but I'm going to go ahead and let our global arts and cultures folks introduce themselves.
Great, thanks, Sarah. I'm Eric Anderson. I'm the graduate program director for the Global Arts and Cultures program. I'll be giving some information about the program today and leading a little bit of a discussion and answering questions along with a couple of current students. And so I'll let the current Global Arts and Cultures students introduce themselves. Pratik, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Pratik. I'm a second year right now at RISD. I'm finishing off my thesis. I have a background in architecture and graphic design. But the idea was to come here and broaden that and gain some theoretical academic foundations, and it's been pretty great so far. Also, I think Lily, who's also a panelist, might have gotten the wrong link. She's not able to join as a panelist, but yeah, Ruchika.
Hi, I'm Ruchika. I'm a first year grad in GAC. I have a very sort of interdisciplinary background. I majored in visual communication design, so I'm technically trained as a graphic designer, but I work as sort of an artist, designer, and a writer, and I do a couple of different things. I make miniatures, I work on graphic novels, I basically work on different mediums that have different possibilities for interactive and nonlinear storytelling. But with my research interest specifically, I'm interested in different types of knowledge production, and specifically comparing experiential versus cognitive modes of knowledge production and how they produce different forms of knowledge and different forms of actionability. And those are the kinds of interests I'm exploring here at GAC.
Great, thanks both of you for joining us. And we also have an alum of the program, Lily Manycolors, who is joining us as well. Although Sarah, I think Lily somehow ended up in the attendees rather than panelists. And
yeah, I can, I'm going to try to get her on here, but if you want to go ahead and get started with your presentation, and I'll try to take care of that in the background.
That's what we'll do. And then as soon as Lily's on, we'll let her introduce herself as well. So let me start with some information about the program.
Oh, that's Lily.
Oh, great. Lily's here too. Lily, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. I'm a recent grad from the program. I'm a mixed media artist and professor, and I love this program very much.
Wonderful. Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. So let me just say a few words about the program, and then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. The Global Arts and Cultures MA program is a relatively new program. We're currently working with our 4th incoming cohort of students. The program is a 1.5-year master's program. It is a program focused on developing student understanding of and capabilities with critical theories of cultural production on a global scale, which is a kind of expansive charge. It can mean lots of different things, and hopefully we'll give a sense of what some of the range is of the program curriculum. It's an interdisciplinary program. Students engage with multiple disciplinary perspectives and tools. The curriculum is designed to expose students to and develop facility with a range of ideas from different disciplines and an understanding of different disciplinary perspectives on global cultural production. The program is taught and administered by a dedicated faculty. I think that's one of the great strengths of the program. We have a faculty that is very much sort of integral to, dedicated to running the program, teaching its courses, and sort of cultivating the community of the program. We also have a dynamic student cohort, and again, I'm really excited to have representatives of that student cohort here today. It's a group of students that comes from all over the world, comes from different educational backgrounds with, I think, really a wide range of academic interests, scholarly interests, cultural interests, career aspirations, and that sort of mix and dynamism is one of the great strengths of the program. And it's a program that's situated in a wonderful community here at RISD and in Providence. And RISD offers a great deal of resources that students are able to take advantage of, as well as a really close sense of community that expands outward from the GAC program itself to all the other graduate programs and alums at RISD. The program is structured around a core curriculum. It's a 1.5-year program, 3 primary semesters of study, and without going into too much detail, I wanted to give you just a little bit of a sense of what that core curriculum looks like. What is the course of study that the program is built around? So in the first semester, students take a series of core courses. One of them is called Critical Globalisms. It's a seminar that introduces students to a range of critical theories around global cultural production. Just to give you a little bit more of a sense of that from the syllabus, and the course talks about, for example, the world has been imagined through different abstractions: colonialism, modernity, development, progress, nationalism, neoliberalism. Each of those have produced violent ways of managing the world. The course introduces students to different historical imaginations of the world and explores their political and ideological implications. It looks at a variety of sources, historical accounts, theoretical essays, ethnographies, manifestos, interviews, and fiction, and explores ways of complicating, mobilizing, and subverting these systems and processes while confronting the ways in which we remain complicit in their operations. So a really ambitious way to start the program. Lots of really exciting material that students read and discuss and gain familiarity with through the first semester Critical Globalisms course, as well as a second semester called Research Issues that covers a spectrum of issues related to research, from basic but fundamentally important questions like what counts as research, as evidence, as an argument, to more complicated and ethical concerns, poses questions about the very nature and the ethics of research. Big questions like what picture of the world does a particular structure of research construct, and what does it leave out? And it connects all those discussions about research to the basic material of the program, to the study of global relations and globalization, argues that globalization itself is an argument made believable through certain kinds of evidence, certain structures of research. So it's a core curriculum in the first semester that is both engaging students with a certain way of thinking, a certain body of material, and then preparing for ongoing study. So in the second semester, in the first year spring, students take another core course called Politics and Ethics of Representation. It's a course that works within and against regimes of representation. So a clear kind of political, ethical, and critical direction to the course. It explores and challenges the work of representation while considering its theoretical and methodological issues and its specific implications with regard to race, Blackness, indigeneity, disability, queerness, caste, gender, history. And it approaches those questions from a whole range of fields, and that kind of interdisciplinarity is, of course, fundamental to the program. Black studies, gender studies, women of color feminism, Southeast Asian studies, transnational global studies, performance studies, queer of color critique, sort of a sense of the range of approaches and methods that are introduced. Students also then in the spring take a thesis prospectus seminar, and all of this is designed to build toward the thesis as the kind of end product of the program. So the thesis prospectus seminar provides guidance through a process of devising, writing, and revising that will lead to the master's thesis. The course sort of introduces an iterative process to allow students time and space to reflect on their research questions and methods, their goals and assumptions. And it, in a sense, sort of creates a culture around research and the thesis process. It suggests that a sustained and effective research process requires intellectual rigor, stamina, and tenacity. It also requires a supportive environment, a space of encouragement, constructive criticism, and empathy where students can test ideas, think aloud, and challenge orthodoxies. In addition to that core curriculum, so that the core curriculum is the kind of heart and soul of the program. It's what anchors students' experiences in the program. It is constructed to build from kind of basic critical foundations through research methods and thesis approaches to the final thesis product. In addition to that core curriculum, then we offer a range of elective courses, and students take a minimum of 4 electives during their time in the program. And just to give you a little bit of a sense of some of the kinds of electives that we offer, a course called Theories of the Image that will be offered this spring, for example, poses questions like, what are images? How do they shape our world and inform our subjectivities? What does it mean to read and respond to them contemporaneously? What are the uses and abuses of images? Some of the same kind of broad methodological questions that the program poses in the core curriculum, but applied to a specific subject area around the study of images, visual culture. Migrants, refugees, and displaced people, another elective that is currently being offered, asks questions like, what motivates and restricts the movement of people across the borders of nation states? What are the causes and consequences of these movements in relation to legal, political, economic, social, and cultural factors? And then another course being offered this year, which I know some of our students, Ruchika included, is currently taking, Conversations in Contemporary Design, that explores varied contexts for modern and contemporary practices of design and craft arts, from materials and making to ways that objects are encountered, consumed, and lived with, to design's promises and limitations for coping with challenges of technology, climate, politics, society, and the self. Those elective courses are a way of extending, in a sense, the critical study, the foundations that are developed through the core curriculum. And all of this concludes with the thesis, which is the focus of work in the third and final semester of the program. Students work independently in conversation with peers and in individual consultation with the faculty advisor and committee to complete a substantive research-based and original intervention in the field. The thesis culminates in public presentations, as well as participation in RISD's graduate thesis show. And this is another of the really distinguishing aspects of the program, is the amount of energy and time and resources that are dedicated to guiding the creation of the thesis. And one of the real advantages that students in this program have is the thesis as the end product. The quality and depth of the thesis that students are able to produce in the program. And last, I just wanted to leave you with a sense of some of the resources that the program offers to students while they're here at RISD and in Providence. RISD has excellent research resources, starting with the RISD Fleet Library and Archives, which is one of the most extensive art libraries in the country. RISD also has one of the largest, and I would say also most accessible, university museums, the RISD Museum, just down the street from our program headquarters. We have access to and collaboration with Brown University and the vast research resources and curricular resources that Brown offers. Program students have opportunities to enroll in any of Brown's course offerings and also have access to Brown's research and other kinds of extracurricular resources. Brown University is just up the hill from our program, so it is eminently accessible. And finally, RISD Graduate Studies. RISD offers a range of other graduate programs in studio and research areas, and the program is very much situated within a larger community of graduate students in other disciplines and studio areas. And GAC is also then able to take advantage of a whole range of resources and supports that RISD Graduate Studies offers to the larger community. So let's move it over to questions. All of us are glad to hear and answer as best we can any questions that you have about the program and speak in any ways that might give you a more detailed sense of what it's like to be here and attend the GAC program.
So we don't have any questions yet in the Q&A section, so maybe it could be a good opportunity for one of the students to talk about their experience a little bit in the program.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I think one thing that I would love for any of you to talk more about, just for starters, is maybe why you chose the program in the first place.
I can speak to that. So I, first and foremost, am an artist, working artist, painter, sculptor, performing artist, and I have no BFA, no MFA, and I went into my master's program looking for a master's program that would support my artistic practice, that would not hinder my process that I have very carefully developed over like the past decade. And so I ended up choosing GAC because it was going to give me like very foundational knowledge that fed my artistic practice, like profoundly fed my work. My thesis, I ended up writing a 107-page thesis, and as an artist, realizing that I could write that much was kind of an incredible experience. I also produced a 9-foot painting that correlates to my thesis. And So my intention for choosing GAC was very much about my artistic practice, but then something happened where going through all the courses and then arriving at writing the thesis, I realized I had this whole other skill set. So I think GAC is, while it's short, it's a very short program, which worked for me as like a mother and someone with a job and a career. The journey going through the program, you have access to so much information that it really does change you, which I think that's kind of the point of going to school. The content is very robust, and can be very heavy, but I think what this program can do is, especially if you're somebody who has never traveled or kind of gone outside of your circle, it gives you access to experiencing other ways of thinking, being, and doing. It gives you access to other cultural experiences, and not necessarily from like an anthropological, like outsider perspective. You get immersed in like these experiences, these stories, and these knowledges that you're engaging. So it's a very profound course, and having gone through the course and now teaching and watching students go through, the things you think you can do once you've gone through are way more than what you thought at first, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, Pratik, Ruchika, would you like to?
Yeah, I can jump in and add to what Lily said. Completely in agreement with everything Lily mentioned. It's been a remarkable opportunity to engage with a lot of different kinds of, I want to say, knowledges, but also intentions towards creating those knowledges. I come from a background in design, and have some association with the art circles in India. And my feeling working there for the past 6 years or so is just there's a tendency, and I'm speaking from the Indian context, but I imagine this is probably true for most design practices anywhere. There's an undue focus on creating some sort of an artifact or a product at the end of whatever kind of creative process you engage in. And I think, I mean, that's obviously a byproduct of the sort of commodity-driven society we live in. But I think being at JC was an opportunity to sort of critique that and actually be encouraged to try and be creative and creative even with our understanding of history and culture, but to be creative without the intention of actually having to make something. The thesis, of course, I mean, you could argue is a product that we're making at the end of this, but I think that the way the thesis is structured is far more open-ended. We are encouraged to not try to create linear narratives or make it, there's no particular need to make knowledge palatable in that sense. I think we're encouraged to kind of let things be unstable and celebrate that instability. And I think those kinds of ideas, and again, I want to say those kinds of intentions towards making are critical, I think. Even if you do end up returning back into industry and actually creating some sort of a product or commodity at the end of it, I think knowing what the production of these things do, knowing I mean, all of those things are actually vital. And I think this particular program has been really good at giving me that sort of knowledge. I want to say coming into it, I had a less of an understanding of what I was getting into. I think I knew it would be something like this, but what it turned out to be was just incredible. And I think that's exactly what it is. That if you seek new knowledges, if you're not surprised, then I think you're not in the right place. And we were plenty surprised by what we were getting. And sort of now that I'm at the end of this program, also, I think the feeling is I wanted to do something academic, I think, and being at RISD in a design school as a designer myself, I think felt like a safe environment. And also it's been an interesting opportunity to engage with the research in a very different way from anything I've done before, simply because you do end up attending classes with other graduate students at RISD, most of whom are MFAs and makers. So you do engage with actual producers of culture, so to say, and engage with the sort of thinking that they're going through. And I think being at a design university, it's interesting because we get to actually, I don't know, I want to say in the tiniest way, make our research actionable, even in our conversation with other artists at RISD, which I think is very rare for a research institute. And at the same time, I'm pretty close to Brown. So if you want to get really nerdy about the academia, that's possible too. And all that's been really, really good. I've never had the opportunity to think through anything in as much depth as I've had for the thesis, which has at times been extremely exhausting, where others has felt like a great opportunity. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of I think, my broad answer to all of this. Ruchika.
Yeah, just to kind of take off from where Pratik left off, I think that's similar to the way in which I came across GAC and decided to join this program, because I come from my undergrad institution was also kind of structured on a similar ethos, where there was a focus on liberal arts education within an art and design institution. And so I connected with that aspect of GAC, of it being a liberal arts program within the context of an art and design institution. And so the environment was somewhat familiar to me. And that's kind of what drew me to GAC in the beginning. And I think there is a very sort of rigorous focus on doing research well here at GAC, which is something I really appreciate. There is a certain rigor built into the program and the kind of co-curricula that we engage in, and the kind of readings that we do, the kind of writing that is encouraged. There is a focus on, kind of developing ideas and your thoughts in a rigorous manner, not in a frivolous way, which is often the trap a lot of art and design institutions fall into when they're trying to integrate research into their curricula, is that it ends up being done somewhat frivolously in some of the other environments that I have experienced this kind of collaboration. And so what drew me to GAC was the fact that it was engaging with this type of work with a kind of seriousness and rigor, and encouraging the students to kind of build out their ideas and their theories and their thoughts in that way. But at the same time, I think one of the really nice advantages of GAC is that it is there, the interdisciplinarity in approach is like genuinely built into the program. It's not just lip service. It's not, I mean, like Lily was talking about how she went about her thesis. There is a focus on kind of figuring out how to do research in new ways. It's not a traditional academic program, despite the seriousness and rigor of academic research. You are allowed to pursue experimental approaches to the way that you conduct your research, the way that you disseminate that research, the way that you put down your ideas, the way that you are able to kind of integrate other creative approaches into that process of theory building and that process of theorization. And that, for me, as an interdisciplinary artist and maker and writer, and I try to do a lot of those things in my own work, and to get the space to do that in a rigorous research program like this is really new and refreshing and very relieving, actually, because knowing that it doesn't really, I don't have to kind of come out of my usual manner of practice for this 1.5 years is really important, to know that it kind of just fits into the way that I normally go about my work is a really important thing for me. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Lots there and lots to maybe dig into a little bit more. I mean, one thing I think to highlight about all of your comments just now is this kind of unique relationship between creative practice and research that exists within the program that you all bring to the program that we support through the program curriculum. I think you all in lots of ways are typical of students having some kind of prior engagement and interests around creative practices, and that can take lots of forms. And certainly not all students come in with training in training in art and design practice, but it's typical that students have those interests and background and find unique ways and find supports for integrating creative practice and research here, both within the curriculum, within the coursework, and then with also in the thesis. I wonder if maybe could we go back to the coursework a little bit more, and I said a few things about the core courses and the elective opportunities and so forth. And Pratik, you also mentioned Brown University as another option. But I wonder if all of you would like to say a little bit more about your experiences in the courses. Ruchika just starting out, Pratik having recently completed the core curriculum, Lily having been through the whole arc of it. Any particular sort of moments or experiences that you'd like to highlight in your class experiences?
I can start since I'm in the very beginning phase of GAC. I think the courses are there is a sort of unique balance they're able to strike between breadth and depth, because the kind of thematic variety that we explore in our core courses is actually quite impressive in the range of themes we are able to cover. But at the same time, there is some amount of focus on specific readings. We're not just skimming across all of these different things, but we are kind of really kind of getting into them and getting into the meat of them. And the other nice thing, for me at least, is that there is a sort of interconnected web that is created across all of the courses that I am currently taking, from critical globalisms to research issues, and even now to conversations in contemporary design. They're all beginning to kind of speak to each other, and that really goes a long way in helping you kind of put together your own bibliography of resources and research to dip into for yourself, because these courses, whether by design or by accident, all tend to kind of speak to each other. The readings do tend to speak to each other. The various thinkers that we engage with in the different classes, and not just thinkers, but even the kinds of people we gather together for like guest lectures and guest talks and things like that. They all usually come from similar interdisciplinary ethos, and so they have a way of kind of speaking to each other and kind of crossing those disciplinary boundaries. And the other thing I really appreciate about the course material is it's not purely, I mean, it is primarily focused on academic material and academic research, but at the same time, we do engage with other types of material, like works of fiction, especially in our critical globalisms class. We've already done 2 pieces of fiction. And there is a sort of, that's what I meant when I said that this interdisciplinarity and approach is kind of built into the very fabric of the courses, and that we do study the ways in which research can be conducted in other forms of creative expression. And so it's not just about how we might approach research creatively, we're also looking at how other, sort of established thinkers and creators do that in their own work, through fiction writing, through film, through poetry, and different types of creative expression as well.
Yeah, and just to like quickly add to that, I think I know like interdisciplinarity as an idea keeps being bandied around a lot, but I think at JC we are adamantly like the in-between people. I think that's kind of we function in like the gaps and the silences, and it's been cool to see to engage with so much of this material, so much of this thinking from, I mean, often going as far back as the 1800s or even further back, depending on where your research goes. But it's been, the coursework that way has been really interesting in just sort of, I don't know, realizing how many gaps there have been in our construction of history, and what histories we allow to be legitimate and things like that. And I think especially critical globalism, I think was crucial in sort of framing that. But at the same time, I like that being in a sort of studio environment, we are somehow still very, I don't want to use the word practical, but I want to say, like, academia does have a tendency, and also has a reputation for sometimes being a little removed from material life. And I think somehow being in a making school so keeps us very closely linked to that. And I think the coursework paired with the sort of electives you were able to take, and I took a studio photography class last year, and I know a lot of my peers ended up taking studio classes in VR, or some students, for instance, who also took classes at Brown, which were even more academically oriented. But since you have that sort of range of thinking, making, doing, and the freedom to engage with a lot of people that are pursuing this with an immense amount of seriousness, I think the coursework really comes together really, really well. And it's kind of remarkable to see the sort of surreptitious ways in which the coursework seeded into my brain now that I'm working on my thesis, because I didn't even realize how much, how beneficial it's been until I actually got here. I didn't think I was capable of doing a thesis at the scale that we're doing it now before I started the coursework. I think our faculty is very sneaky in the way they educate us. We don't even realize it, and we get smarter.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to just pause there for one second, because I think Pratik, you just spoke to one of the questions in the Q&A from Sasha, who asks, are other courses at RISD also available to us? And would extra classes at RISD or Brown be considered electives or extra courses? You spoke to some of that, but maybe do you want to clarify at all an answer to that question?
Yeah, just really quickly. Yes, you can. Besides the core curriculum, we're allowed to take, I think, 4 electives. I'm not sure if it's the same now, but those electives can be from across RISD's other graduate departments or undergraduate departments, depending on size and availability. And you're also encouraged to take classes at Brown. There is a process to do it. With Brown, it can be particularly long drawn, but it's just an administrative thing. You need to get a bunch of letters signed and get permission, but it's all allowed and possible. And there's also the opportunity to do what's called an individual study project, and you can also do a collaborative study project, which is instead of taking a course, you can work with a specific faculty that you want to and actually develop a project if you'd like. So there's actually a lot of flexibility in the sort of coursework you take. And just also very quickly, the range of electives we have at RISD, again, it's a studio school, it's a making school, it's also liberal arts school. So it's quite incredible, I think, the sort of range. We have a problem of plenty. That's never a bad thing.
And when I mentioned electives in my presentation, initially, I was showing graduate-specific electives within the program, but as Pratik's indicating, there's a wide range of courses that are available in other departments at RISD, other liberal arts departments and course offerings, studio offerings, and then Brown as well.
Not to interrupt, we have like one more question I want to get answered, and then we'll have to wrap this up for the day. But this, I think, goes to everyone. But how do you all see the program evolving in the future? Any additional perspectives that you see the program benefiting from?
My personal involvement is the local indigenous tribes and their knowledges and their ways of being and doing, being more integrated into the epistemology of GAC, because my personal experience and then what I've observed is GAC has a profound effect on RISD as a whole, because it is a liberal arts program. And so it's not focused on like a studio practice. It's not focused on technicality and skills. It's focused on how do you think and perceive the world. And I think the GAC coursework, it's extremely rigorous. One of the questions was kind of talking about, you know, having to work. I will say this is a full-time job. The coursework is rigorous. You're going to be reading more than you even thought you could. If you're not a prolific reader, you learn how to read in new ways. You learn to write in ways that maybe you didn't think were possible. And so it's a lot of evolving personal evolution that's happening because of the coursework being so rigorous and very specific. And, you know, the institution is going through its own evolution, and there is a rectifying of injustices that's happening at the institution. So there is other perspectives that have been racialized, marginalized, and oppressed that are coming in and having a place. And GAC is kind of, in my opinion, at the helm of this. So, I mean, for me as an artist, you know, GAC is not designed for an art practice, and the scholarship that I received allowed me to kind of shake that up a little bit. And so I was able to include an art practice very deeply involved in my GAC coursework. While that's not standard, you know, it can happen. So I think what is great about GAC and the way that it evolves is it's intrinsically designed to be adaptive.
To just kind of add to that, I think GAC specifically is positioned at it's kind of positioned at a bit of a sweet spot at RISD, because it is a very new program. We're in the 4th year now. But at the same time, we do get access to, I mean, we do get to reap the benefits and the advantages of it being part of a more historic institution where we have resources like the library and the museum and all of these different resources to dip into that are very established. And of course, that establishment may come with its problems, but it also comes with its advantages. But GAC being a very new program, like Lily said, is quite adaptable, and it does have the potential to kind of expand and shift to accommodate its specific grad students' interests and inclinations. And so it has the ability to kind of evolve with its students. And so you as a grad student have a lot of agency to kind of push the boundaries of what is possible at GAC. So to also kind of answer one of the questions that came up in the Q&A that both Lily and I had answered about whether the thesis can be arts-based, I mean, it has to primarily still be like a written literary piece of work, and the focus has to be on the quality of the research question and the way that you explore it. And so it primarily does end up being a written piece, but at the same time, there is the space to kind of explore it as a creative object if you are so inclined. Like, for example, in my case, I mean, it's still very, very early for me in the process, but I am kind of slowly exploring the possibilities of what it would mean to explore my thesis in a slightly more visual style, while still it being a written piece, you know, incorporating strategies of graphic novels and things like that to kind of see what I can do with that medium, because part of my thesis does involve kind of answering the question of what can creative practice and what can a more creative mode of expression bring to a research question that traditional academic writing cannot. And so what does it mean to write in different registers? What does it mean to bring in creative modes of expression? What kind of truth telling can you do in creative forms of media that are not possible in more rigorous academic research? And so for me to try and explore that actively within my thesis is kind of an experiment, but also a way to add to the research question itself and a way to kind of answer the question while also experimenting with it. So there is space to kind of evolve and to very actively evolve the program at being a student in the program, and to kind of push the boundaries of what it means to do research in a space like GAC, in a space like RISD.
Yeah, and just to sort of echo that, I think even just seeing, I'm lucky to be sort of like the middle child in the JC family right now, because Lily's my big sister and Ruchika just got here, and like it's just it's kind of cool to see how each cohort has, what the sort of composition of each cohort has been and the way they've influenced the program and the school. And I think it's moving in a very interesting direction. I feel like we're all very active and engaged, and even Lily's still active and engaged, even after having graduated a year ago, in the program's development, in the way RISD works through these. And I'm actually very excited about how the new batch is engaging with all of these things. It's very exciting. I think it's a very exciting time to be at GAC, because RISD is going through a big moment of change, and GAC is all about, I think, comprehending these massive processes of change that are happening. And I think we're uniquely positioned to and are actually supporting that movement. And as a student, I think you get an excellent opportunity to do that. Also, I know I know Lily and Ruchika said a lot about there being a space to do an art space thing, and I want to echo that and agree with that. But I also want to lobby for just, if you want to do pure academics, that's possible too. But what's interesting is that you get to be very creative even in the way you approach the academics. You get to be very creative in the way you structure it, in the sort of stylistic choices you make, and actually even more essentially in what even counts as evidence, what even in terms of backing up your research claims. And I think yeah, you can be an artistic researcher if you'd like, and that's a pretty unique thing to do out here.
Just to quickly add one line to that, the kind of readings that we are currently doing in our actually in all of our classes at the moment, really kind of give you a sense of what it would mean to do what Pratik was just saying, which to be like a creative researcher while still exploring your the product of that research in primarily a written literary form, because we are looking at very many examples of how different people go about that very thing. We're reading so many works by people like Saidiya Hartman or Errol Morris, and different people who explore these research questions in a primarily literary form, but at the same time do it in so many different ways that it really kind of dismantles a lot of the notions you might have about what it means to do an academic writing piece. And how to structure it, how to explore different types of writing structures, like Pratik said.
And just add to that, then all of you and other alums and current students are going out into the world, and in some cases pursuing academic careers, in some cases moving back into or developing art and design practices, doing work related to cultural policy or arts policy at NGOs and in governments. So there really is a kind of range of applications, and they are both creative and academic. And I think one thing that the program is very explicit about is supporting that range of applications and approaches. I think that's, I'm really glad that the question came up in the Q&A about the program evolving, additional perspectives, and Lily and Pratik and Ruchika, you all spoke to that really well, but I do want to just emphasize the way that the program is responsive, nimble, both in a structural sense and in an intellectual sense. The curriculum is designed to create ways of engaging with the contemporary world and whatever challenges it brings us to engage with those intellectually. And RISD as an institution and the GAC program are small, close-knit communities that are in lots of ways structurally nimble as well. We have wonderful new faculty coming in all the time. RISD did something really amazing in the past couple of years, which was a cluster hire around the theme of race in art and design. So there's I think an incredible amount of kind of energy and as well as resources being committed to bringing in new voices, new faculty, new students, new conversations that are fundamentally responsive to the world and its challenges right now. Sarah, are we running short on time? How are we doing?
Yeah, we should probably start wrapping it up soon. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone today on the panel. And if you would like to watch this recording later on, if you came in late or something, we should have it up on the website in about a week. If you do have any additional questions, please email us at admissions@risd.edu. And if it's something we can answer, we will answer in our department. If not, we can pass it on to make sure that Eric gets it and he can give you some further assistance. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we end today?
Yeah, let me just add a very sincere invitation to anybody to be in touch, to ask questions over email, to arrange a time to meet over video or in person if you're in the area or if you have plans to visit RISD. And I would personally welcome chances to speak with prospective students. And I know that our current students, our alums, and our faculty all welcome those opportunities as well. So I hope everything that we talked about here indicated that there's a much bigger conversation to be had around the program, and that we'd really love to talk more about anything. So please do be in touch.
Also, not to plug this just because I am running it, but since you are prospective GAC students, if you want to get a very active sense of what we're up to on a daily basis at GAC, you can follow our new Instagram, because we do kind of post about the different things we're up to on a day-to-day basis. There we do the kinds of lectures that we're organizing, some of which are Zoom lectures that are open to the public that you can attend, and you can kind of get an active sense of what conversations are like in GAC, the kinds of things we're reading, the kinds of people we're engaging with, the kinds of events that we might organize, the field trips that we might do. So you can get a more everyday sense of what we're up to in our classes, but also outside of our classes, activities that our students and faculty might be engaging in, both at GAC, outside of GAC, at larger RISD community, but beyond RISD at Brown and other places as well. So it's a good way to get a sense of what we're up to on a day-to-day basis.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Ruchika, thank you so much for that, for the Instagram, and for mentioning that. And Pratik just put the information in the chat, so that is an excellent way to get a sense of what we're up to.
All right, with that, thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And we hope you can attend some of our other webinars we have this week. I did put the schedule in the chat. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out. All right, thank you. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.